Palestinian resistance responds to aggressions perpetrated by Israeli occupation forces against citizens in the occupied West Bank. The Venezuelan government denounced a new terrorist attack against the national electric system carried out by the Venezuelan extreme right wing with the aim of destabilizing the country. And Brazilian Federal Supreme Court ordered the extradition of the people under investigation in the attempted coup and attack on the nation's federal government buildings in January 2023. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Palestinian resistance responds to aggressions perpetrated by Israeli occupation forces against citizens in the occupied West Bank. On Wednesday, Al-Quds brigade fighters responded with explosives to the illegal Israeli incursion into several areas of the West Bank. Also, Palestinian resistance forces exchanged fire with Israeli forces who stormed the vicinity of the former Aska camp. Members of the Al-Quds brigade denounced that Tel Aviv carries out raids and illegal arrests against civilians, subjecting them to interrogation and mistreatment. The Iraqi resistance affirmed that they continue with the operations against the Israeli army in response to the aggressions and massacres committed against the peoples of Palestine and Lebanon. The Iraqi resistance launched a drone with advanced features towards a vital Israeli target in the center of occupied Palestine. The group also stressed that it will increase the scale of operations against Tel Aviv's military settlements in the occupied territories. The Lebanese resistance group Hezbollah confirmed that it carried out an attack against the city of Haifa in rejection to the aggressions committed by the Israeli army against the south of the country. Likewise, the resistance group confirmed an attack against the occupied city of Safed, which left several wounded. The resistance also attacked a contingent of Israeli army personnel and vehicles in the settlement of Khaled Warda. Since the beginning of the Israeli aggression against Lebanon, the resistance maintains attacks against Haifa, which is a strategic point for the occupation due to the fact that it functions as a seaport and is located 90 kilometers from Tel Aviv. The government of Iran warns that its country will respond harshly to any Israeli aggression against its territory. Iranian authorities assured that it is necessary to maintain regional peace and stability in the context of the Israeli aggression against the Middle East. In this regard, they blamed Israel and its supporters, especially the United States, for destabilizing the region and encouraging a large-scale conflict. They also called on the international community to stop the aggressions and crimes perpetrated by Israel and to send all the necessary aid to the people affected by Tel Aviv's onslaught. The head of the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees has called for access for international media organizations to Gaza to report about the situation on the ground.
None of you has been allowed to go to Gaza, which is a pity, and most of the information that we are receiving are information we are either receiving by Eric local journalist or by organization operating in Gaza. But of course, in a situation like this when we have so many different types of a narrative, it is of utmost importance, I believe, that we continue to ask for the presence of or the access of international journalists.
In Lebanon, the ongoing Israeli shellings in the capital Beirut and southern regions killed several people. On Tuesday night, the Zionist army attacked the town of Kana, killing at least 15 people, while 15 others were wounded. The devastated southern Lebanese town still remembers the 1996 Israeli artillery bombardment, which killed at least 100 civilians sheltering in a United Nations compound. In another attack on Wednesday, at least 5 people were killed, including the mayor of the town of Navatie, after Israeli strikes hit 2 municipal buildings. Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati said Israel deliberately targeted a meeting of the municipal council that was discussing the city's services and relief situation. The United Nations Special Coordinator for Lebanon says civilian suffering is reaching an unprecedented level. At the same time, Lebanese authorities shared some statements after Israeli strikes killed at least 15 people in the southern town of Cana.
In the early morning hours, specifically from last night, Cana town was targeted. We evacuated some injured individuals to hospitals in Tyre, all while under fire. Last night, we had to pull out of the areas due to the danger, after ensuring there were no more people alive. We have civilians trapped under the rubble, women and young men. We are working on it and hope that in the next few hours, we will complete the search and rescue operation.
Most of the families that are under the rubble are civilian families. They refused to leave this town to other locations. They were martyred on their land. They are blessed to be martyred. This is our destiny and fate. All the destruction we see today wants to change our identity, but our identity is in our core. We will defend our land, honor, and dignity by staying on this land and continue to persevere here.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Venezuelan government announced a new terrorist attack against the national electric system carried out by the Venezuelan extreme right wing with the aim of destabilizing the country. During a phone call, the Minister of Electric Energy, Jorge Marquez, detailed that the terrorist aggression was specifically against the transmission system, which is the backbone of the national electric system. Marquez also thanked the entire team of workers who are currently assisting the restoration in an efficient and quick manner. Likewise, the Minister of Electric Energy emphasized that even though the extremist groups in the country try to harm the people, the Bolivarian revolution will continue to fight against any act of destabilization.
This afternoon I want to denounce once again a terrorist attack to the national electric system, this time to the transmission system of our country. These terrorists only think about harming our country while our people work to move forward. At this moment I want to inform you, Carlos, and all the people of Venezuela, that we are recovering all the load and restoring the service throughout the country.
Jorge Marquez also informed that 25% of the country was affected by the new aggressions.
This attack affected approximately 25% of the country. 25% of the country. It affected us quite strongly. Could be felt throughout the country, the strong impact. But thanks to God, our working class is now restoring the service and guaranteeing our people the service they deserve.
In Venezuela, the President of the National Assembly, Jorge Rodriguez, proposed the creation of a new law for the defense of political sovereignty and national self-determination. During a meeting of the Special Commission for the Analysis of the Electoral Laws, Rodriguez assured that it is a proposal that arises from the constitutional table to be consulted by the parties, the communal councils, the cultural groups, and the society in general. The official also announced that next week he will initiate a process of popular consultations in diverse sectors of the society with all those who wish to express their opinion on the development of the electoral legislative system in the country.
In the work that has been carried out, because it has not only been these plenary meetings, there have been daily meetings of the 3 working commissions. There is a proposal that we want to share with all of you, of the elaboration of a new law, which we even propose to be titled as follows: Law for the Defense of Political Sovereignty and National Self-Determination, which would be like a law that develops Article 130 of the Constitution. It is a proposal that arises from the constitutional table, so that it can be consulted, worked on, approached by the parties, by the communal councils, the cultural groups, by the universities, the law faculties, etc.
During the ceremony for the delivery of funding for the Communal Coffee Plan 2024, the President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, called for the support of projects in the country that involve Venezuelan young people. The Venezuelan head of state emphasized the need to finance projects for the Venezuelan youth in response to a demand of the Venezuelan young people who want more cultural projects to be prioritized to satisfy their needs. Maduro also announced the creation of a youth committee for the communal circuits with the aim of satisfying these demands. Furthermore, the president affirmed that if the necessary cultural resources are allocated to these projects, it is possible to achieve them properly.
In second place, parallel supporting specific projects of youth, for youth, and with youth created for young people, because young people have complained and have said that prioritized projects don't involve young people and their needs. So we are conforming a youth committee for a communal circuit to support them that is worthy. And if we use all of the resources of culture and youth and put them in certain path, things are going to work correctly. You know what I'm talking about.
During the launching of what has been called the historic patriotic petrochemical block, the government of Venezuela urged the defense of energy resources to prevent theft by national corporations. During the event, the Venezuelan Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez stressed that in the next 9 years, the oil and chemical markets will have a growth of up to 72%. The Vice President emphasized that in spite of the sanctions imposed by the United States government, there is evidence of economic growth in areas such as agro-industry, agriculture, and cattle raising. Rodriguez pointed out that the first phase of the new economic recovery program will be focused on the Venezuelan working class, since it is the hardest hit sector by the Western sanctions.
I don't have to explain to you what every working man and woman in the country has lived through with their families. To take away from Venezuela, each year, 99% of its foreign income meant the suffocation of the economy. And the inducement of an inflation that destroyed the
Venezuelan Vice President also highlighted the nation's economic growth after the implementation of the economic recovery plan promoted by President Nicolás Maduro.
We all agree to implement a new economic model in order to diversify the economy, and that is why, in August 2018, President Nicolás Maduro launched the Program for Economic Recovery, Growth and Prosperity. Today, 5-6 years later, we can say that this program is showing a positive balance in favor of Venezuela. A good point for Venezuela, thanks to President Nicolás Maduro.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Brazilian Federal Supreme Court ordered the extradition of the people under investigation in the attempted coup and attack on the nation's federal government buildings in January 2023. The extradition request was issued by the national police and includes some 63 citizens who escaped to Argentina in violation of the preventive measures they were subjected to. So far, more than 200 people have been convicted for the crimes of armed association, aggravated damages, and for spreading anti-democratic messages. On January 8, 2023, supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro attacked the nation's federal government buildings in the capital city of Brasilia, causing deliberate damages to them. The attack was aimed at unseating the democratically elected President Lula, who had been inaugurated on January 1st. The secondary school teachers in Uruguay continued on strike on Wednesday in support of the Teachers Union and the members of the United Trade Union Center. The National Federation of Secondary Education Teachers, FENAPES, had called a 48-hour strike in which educators and students would take over 5 high schools in the city of Montevideo. The demonstrators are speaking out against the budget cuts in public education, which they say is over $300 million. The Single National Union of Construction and Annexes, the Confederation of Industrial Unions, and the Uruguayan Health Federation have joined the strike. A study reveals that massive deforestation has fragmented the Amazonia region, isolating 23% of its forest and weakening its ecosystems, crucial for the planet. The document points out that some 193 million hectares were affected by deforestation, leaving them without ecological connectivity. This reduces the capacity of the Amazonian ecosystems to regulate the vital cycles of oxygen, fresh water, and global climate. In addition, another 108 million hectares of the planet's largest tropical rainforests are at risk of becoming isolated as well. Deforestation prevents the free movement and survival of animals, threatens the entire ecological chain, and harms the lives of more than 47 million people located in the Amazon basin. The government of Bolivia assured that at least 79 forest fires were brought under control in the national territory. Bolivian President Luis Arce stated that the Guardian Plan managed to unload more than 4 million liters of water, comprising 358 aerial operations with 772 hours of flight time over the affected territory. Despite the efforts of almost 2,000 firefighters, authorities confirmed that the fire is still active in some localities of Santa Cruz, Beni, and La Paz. In the meantime, the government implemented a 5-year ban on the use of the affected lands in order to prevent settlements in these areas. Meanwhile, vessel traffic in the Panama Canal dropped by 29% due to the severe drought, with a transit of 9,936 vessels this year compared to 14,080 vessels in 2023. The drop is due to the measures implemented by the Panama Canal authorities at the end of 2023 to address the lack of water caused by the drought. The lack of rainfall caused the daily transit of ships to decrease from 38 to 22, although the situation has normalized in recent months with the arrival of the rainy season in the country. In Morocco, the heavy rains that hit the southwestern Sahara during September left floods and new accumulations of water. The town of Taugunite, south of the capital Rabat, recorded an increase of 100 millimeters of water in the lapse of 24 hours. In addition, the rainfall refilled the groundwater supplies, favoring the population affected by the water problems. Flooding in dunes and oases left more than 20 people dead between Morocco and Algeria, and also caused damage to crops. Meanwhile, on Wednesday, heavy rains lashed southern India, resulting in meteorological authorities issuing a red alert warning of flash floods and landslides. The National Meteorological Department warned of heavy to very heavy rainfall expected in parts of the southern state of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Kerala. Heavy rains and strong winds have battered the south of the country since Tuesday, forcing many schools closed and disrupting train services. Nigerian people in the northern town of Mahija gathered for a mass burial of victims of the fuel tanker explosion, which killed at least 147 people. An explosion tore through crowds of people who had rushed to collect fuel spilling from a crashed tanker in northern Nigeria, killing at least 147 people. The tragedy is the latest accident of its kind at a time when gasoline has become a precious commodity in the country, which is suffering its worst economic crisis in a generation. The police said that the fuel tanker changed direction suddenly to avoid another vehicle and crashed in the town of Mahija, Jigawa State late on Tuesday. Following the crash, residents crowded round the overturned tanker to gather the leaking fuel. On this day in 1854, the writer, poet and playwright Oscar Wilde was born in Dublin, Ireland. With his satirical style, he became a relevant voice in the 19th century aesthetic movement. However, his career and life collapsed at the end of 1895 when he was accused of sodomy and sentenced to 2 years of hard labor. After his release from prison, he suffered complete social ostracism and decided to move to France, where he died in November 900 at the age of 46. Known for works such as The Happy Prince and The Picture of Dorian Gray's, Oscar Wilde is considered one of the most important writers of the English language for his sharp wit, his clever irony, and his criticism of the society of that time, leaving an everlasting legacy in literature and Western culture. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok as well. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.